everyone, I'm Aria and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today I finally have finished my fairy village to share with you all. For those of you who have followed me on Twitter, you may have seen some images that I shared kind of every now and again as I've been working on this. So it started out with just this little tiny house here. This was all I was going to do. I wanted to do something with a little bit more detail, with like some nice custom roofing, and I thought, well, I'll just start off with doing like a tiny house, because usually, you know, it's a little bit easier when you're trying to do something with lots of detail. If you go really big really soon or like really early, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I thought, like, no, I'll start off with a tiny home. So this one I think is like 63 tiles, 62 tiles, something like that. And I thought, no, that's plenty big enough. I'll just do like this nice little turret sort of roofing thing for the tower that you can see here. This was kind of where it all started. And I shared the original that I had done of this, and I didn't do it on top of walls. I done it based off of the floor, and it looked a little bit more like a dress. It didn't look anything like what I had imagined. My kind of idea was that I wanted it to look a little bit like a flower head that had been turned upside down and used as a roof. But it ended up looking like a dress. It was definitely the wrong shape, and it wasn't until I had posted the picture that I realized that it did not look how I intended it to. So after a couple of laughs, I tried again, this time on top of a tower like this. I think this is actually my second attempt. I think I did film it, because the first one I didn't film, which, I mean, it literally took me maybe half an hour, so it wasn't really worth filming, seeing as it came to nothing anyway. But this one, it took me a little bit longer because it wasn't the first one obviously wasn't big enough. So then when I tried to do this one, I then ran into some problems with this chair that I was using. This is I don't remember what it's called, but it's from City Living. I think it's meant to look like seashells, but to me it looks like flower petals. And the like the support bar that you can see at the top, that is actually on the bottom of the chair, is the part that I ran into some issues with, because it just kept on sticking out and it was showing through and I couldn't get it to go away. But I managed it eventually. I did try and find some other kind of leaf shaped or something that kind of half resembled leaves to use on the top section that I'm about to start now. But I just couldn't find anything that fitted the same shape and looked like it matched. So luckily this chair has quite a lot of different color swatches, one of them in a really nice green shade, which I was able to use for kind of like the, I don't really know flower anatomy, but like the base of the flower just before the stem. I tried lots of different things to kind of create the shape that I was going for, but in the end I stuck with my original idea, which was the like the flower ornament from Strangerville. I don't know what it is, like the bazaar plant. You can get a ornamental version of it in the, I think it's in the debug menu, and that to me worked the best. It's green on the top, and then underneath it's got like a pink kind of tinge to it, so it matched really well with this one. As you'll see a little bit later, I decided to do lots of I'll say lots 3 more houses, which thankfully this chair also came in some nice colors that I could use the white one, the yellow one, and the blue swatch of this chair to create 4 different like flowered roof colors. So you can see here I tried to use the paranormal light. It's like a wall lamp. I don't know what it's called, and I thought this one kind of looked the closest in color match, but the shape wasn't quite right and it just looks wrong to me. So I'm glad that I changed it. Right now I'm trying to find something that I can use as a stem. I did originally think this rose but it's just a little bit too straight. It didn't look like it really fitted what I was going for, so I ended up selecting a bunch of these different flowers and seeing which ones rotated, and then I think it was the chamomile one, maybe might have been the daisy. I think it's chamomile that I chose, and I thought it kind of just looked the best. It rotates really nicely and it's got some nice leaves on it too, which bend in just the right way that I was looking for, thankfully. So next, after I've finished playing around with this, I wanted to do something equally as detailed but a little bit different with the rest of the roofing that I have done in the past. I've used different debug wood planks and I've used the chopping board from the Cool Kitchen stuff and all sorts of different things like that, but they tend to all be a little bit expensive in the end when you've used like 150 to 200 items on just the roofing alone. So what I remembered seeing in the debug menu is actually from Journey to Batu, and I think it's meant to be fencing or like a little stone trim. There's two different sizes that you can get in the debug menu. There's like a short version and the long version. The longer one unfortunately doesn't rotate, but the short one does, so that's what I end up using in just a little bit when I've finished playing with this. It did take me like 2 hours to do just this single piece of roofing, so I'm quite proud of that. I did save it as a room to do the other 3 houses, but then when I went to put it on top of the others, like from the library, some of them were a little bit weird, like they dropped, so I ended up pretty much having to remake the whole thing 4 times, which was very annoying. But like I said, this is the little stone like wall trim that I've used. From the underneath it's invisible, so it can be a little bit tricky or it was a little bit tricky when I went to do the roofing trim, because I tried to line this up with the roof as it comes, like with the eaves as they are already pulled out, and then I kind of just push them all back in again so that it creates like the flat look, which as you can see here, I think it looks pretty cool. It did take me a pretty long time, but I'm really pleased with how it looks. So what I am trying to do right now is create like a softened edge, I guess, so because as you can see it's very jagged and it just looks a bit, it just doesn't look very pretty. So I wanted to create like a nice trim on it, and this is kind of the only thing that I could come up with that worked. I did try the stone packages from the base game debug, but they just didn't look right. The colors weren't quite right, and the shape was wrong. I just couldn't get it to work. But my kind of inspiration for all of this is actually it's like a cardboard, almost like the school projects that we get in the game of a fairy house. I get my inspiration from some strange places, and this is definitely a first for me for this one. But I thought it just looked really cool that it was DIY'd out of lots of different like things that you could pick up on like a woodland walk. So I think they use like acorns and different pebbles and stones and things for the roofing, which I thought looked really nice. And we don't really have any like proper stone roofing in the game as is, so I thought it was just something completely different that I've not done before, I've not seen done before, but it's probably just something that I just haven't noticed so if anyone else has done it, but I thought it was a really cool idea, and it really kind of completed the whole look for me, because I thought, well, if I just have the one tower that's really nicely decorated and then the rest of the roof is not, it needed to kind of all look the same. But anyway, so I did ask on Twitter, kind of almost jokingly, whether I should keep it as a tiny home or whether I should turn it into like a village with like other buildings and things, and somebody suggested a tiny home village, which I thought was a really cool idea. And you know, because I like to go way overboard and I don't know when to stop, I thought that, you know, I would definitely give it a go, not really knowing how long it was actually going to take me. This is probably the longest I've ever taken to build anything. So I moved it from that lot in Brinderton Bay to this one in Henford on Bagley. This is actually the like park lot over right on the far left hand side. I forget what it's called, I'm not sure. Let me have a look quickly. Okay, so that led me down a bit of a rabbit hole. So it's actually called the Isle of Volpe Park, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Volpe actually is Italian for fox, which I didn't know. I thought that's pretty cool. A little bit of information that I don't need to know. But now you all know it too. So anyway, what I was kind of envisioning with all of this terrain manipulation was originally I wanted it to look like it was at the base of a tree, like one of the images I found. If I can find it again, I will insert it right here for you. But I thought it just looked, I don't know, really nice as like a little fairy kind of village type thing. And as I was looking around the rest of Henford on Bagley at the world surrounding this lot, I realized that it didn't particularly make sense, because having, you know, a giant tree right in the middle of this whole place when there's lots of tiny little trees around it, it didn't make sense to me. So my next idea also does not make any sense, but it's the one that I went with. And that is because it's me and I like to make my life difficult. I went with waterfalls because I've done that lots of times before and I really like the way that it looks, and it just is, you know, a style that I really like to do. So yeah, waterfalls, lots of them. And because I like to try a little bit to make things make sense, when I originally had put down all of the rocks to like attach to the waterfalls, I realized that it didn't really make sense for water to just come out of rock because that's not generally what water does. It doesn't just, you know, appear out of nowhere from rock. And I know it's The Sims and I know I can just say like, you know, whatever, but I still wanted it to make a little bit of sense. So I ended up using some of the live edit rocks that we got with Snowy Escape that have like the snow peaks on the top. And to me that kind of still didn't really make sense, but it made a little bit more sense and enough sense that I could just, you know, leave it and say, well, the snow on the top melted and that's where the water comes from. So that's what I've done. I did take about 2 days to do all this. And like I said, it took me a little bit longer. A load of stuff has just, you know, when everything just happens all at once, that sort of situation. Yeah. So I think I've spoken quite a lot about my visa before, but I had to get a couple of certificates from the UK posted over here, and it was just like a whole mess. And basically they didn't tell me any of the information that I needed to know, so I went ahead and like ordered the copies that I needed to have them posted over to me in Brisbane, and I got an email this morning basically saying that due to COVID that they couldn't send them. Now I ordered these over a month ago, like 6 weeks ago now, so basically I have been, you know, sat here stressed waiting for these things for like 6 weeks, and they hadn't even sent them. Even though they had sent me a dispatch email to say that they had been posted, they actually didn't post them. So, you know, stressful. I also start a new job tomorrow, so, you know, more stress. And yeah, basically I've just been like sat here not really able to concentrate particularly for the last couple of weeks. So this is probably why it's taken me a little bit longer to kind of get this all finished, but hopefully now that I have sorted all of that mess out, I can kind of focus a little bit more. But what you can see now is that I have finally added these 3 other houses. It did take me probably 2 days to do the rest of the houses. The one on the top left hand corner I really struggled with for some reason. I wanted it to be a little bit similar to the house that I had already built first, like right at the beginning, but because of it being on a diagonal and trying to build you know, like a big old hexagonal, is it hexagonal? I don't actually know, I think it is, room onto a already diagonal house, it was coming up with like half tiles, if that makes sense, so it wasn't lining up properly, and it was just driving me a little bit more stressed than I already was. So I ended up taking like a couple days break. I think I was playing Fallout because I really wanted to get the popcorn machine. If anyone plays that game, there was a like Halloween event in game that if you completed like a whole bunch of daily tasks for 2 weeks in a row, then they would give you like this popcorn machine, which now I have it. I'm like, okay, what do I do with it now? Like, great. So that's wonderful, but that's basically what I've been doing. So yeah, when it came back to kind of figuring this out, I realized I'd actually done a lot more than I had kind of originally thought. So what you can see now is basically just me adding the start of the rocks. These ones are from Cottage Living. I wanted it to kind of look like it matched, but when it came to doing some rock work around the waterfalls, I really struggled to kind of get the shape that I wanted that wasn't like sticking out the bottom of the water. I tried using these like arch pieces from Island Living. They're the wrong color, but I thought it would be nice to kind of make it look like the water was coming underneath the branches that I'd already put down, so that it kind of flowed into each pool. It kind of doesn't really look like that in the end. I've tried to cover up bits and pieces with like different landscaping to kind of give the illusion that that's what's going on, but I don't know, you have to tell me whether it actually looks like that, because I don't think it does, but you know, I'm still pretty pleased with how it ended up looking. The logs that you can kind of see over the archway pieces and the waterfalls are all actually placed on the very top floor, so they don't interfere with the footprint, and then I just moved them with tool into the position that you can see them in. I really struggled with trees because I didn't have enough tile space left to add in the trees that I wanted, and I wanted them to be, you know, big enough that they kind of towered over the houses but also looked like they fitted in with the rest of the world, and I just didn't have enough tile space to add them, so I ended up just kind of compromising with some of these smaller trees, and I still think they look pretty cool. I did add another waterfall that I don't know why I wasn't filming, but it's from Realm of Magic. I've used it, you can kind of see if I stop moving, on the top right hand corner, and then it kind of curves around a little bit to the back, and then over on the top left where I've added like a whole bunch of really tall rocks, it kind of comes originally from up there. I think it's the main waterfall that you can see in Glimmerbrook that kind of cascades right over as you go down to the like the archway. And I didn't realize that we had this in game because the live edit thumbnail is invisible. So yeah, I didn't know until like last week that we even had it in the game, which I think is pretty cool. It is enormous though, but thankfully when you size it down, it sizes down quite a lot, and it's not just the footprint that sizes down, it's the whole waterfall that sizes down, and it still animates really well, so that's really cool. And sizing it down with the bracket keys right to like the smallest that it will go, it's actually like a quarter tile in footprint, so it's really easy to put in the place that you want without the footprint interfering. And then if you want to select it with the tool mod, you don't need to find the footprint again, because you can just click on the water and it will select, unlike the Island Living one, which is a real pain because that's not how it works. The only issue that I do kind of have with the Realm of Magic one is because it is so big, if you kind of go off of this lot to the left slightly into the trees, I've tried to hide it but it's in the trees, there is a tiny piece of water that is just floating in midair pouring into trees because it's way off the lot. I couldn't do anything about it, and yeah, this whole waterfall is just, it's so big that I just couldn't fit the whole thing in, so I just had to choose a piece that I liked which is the piece that you can kind of see the biggest bit, but I think it's really nice because you can kind of see it like just there a second ago. It doesn't hit the water, so it kind of just cascades into like a nice mist, which I really like. You can elevate it to wherever you want, you can put it like over rocks, over water, and it still makes sense, whereas the Island Living one, it's kind of got like a pool effect at the bottom, so it has to be touching the water at that exact kind of point, otherwise you just have water pools that just, you know, don't make any sense. So what I originally did was I put down a lot of the landscaping first, kind of where I wanted bits and pieces, but then I was a little bit stuck on placement, especially with some of these like random curvy bits that I've put out. So I then went in with the terrain paint to kind of give me a little bit more idea of where I wanted the landscaping to go. I also thought that it would be really nice to have like a little beachy kind of area down here. You know, no, it doesn't make sense, but I still think it looks cute, so that's why I've done that. And I thought it would be really nice. You know, I have seen the Fairies, is it Fairies versus Witches mod, I think is what it's called. I've seen it around for a couple months now. I think it was released like 3 months ago. I've had it in my game for a little while, but I've never really like played with it too much, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to kind of, you know, highlight it a little bit. I know Claire Siobhan did a video on it last week, I think. I'd already made my fairies at this point so I was like, okay, well, I can't really do anything about it now, I'll just keep going. So you can probably kind of see them a little bit in the bottom of the screen. But I made 4 of them. Each one I wanted to have like a little different theme. Like one of them I think is like water, one of them looks like a cow because I found a really nice CC set by Bella Sims, which I love, and she's a little cow fairy. She's really cute. And one of them is sunflowers, which I think is also a set by Bella Sims, and then there's one more, oh, a mushroom fairy, because I think it's actually Bella Sims that have created like all of the CC that I've used, bar the dress, the mushroom dress, which I'm not sure where it came from, but if you would like to know where it came from, then I will find it for you. What I might actually do is create a Tumblr post with the Sims that I've made, and then I'll link all the CC there if you're interested in finding any of it. But I love my Sims and creating Sims. I post most of them over on Tumblr. I don't really post them anywhere else because I've done it a couple times on Instagram and they haven't really like done very well. So I just tend to like stick to Tumblr because that's where most people go for create Sims things anyway. But anyway, we are on the final stretch of the landscaping. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do screenshots or a tour at the end just yet. I've been having trouble with my Reshade. I mostly use Dove for screenshots and the tour. The one that you can see me using now, I build with, I play with it, it's in my game all the time, is SimEmi version 2. Both of those two are linked in the description of every video because those are the two that I use the most. But unfortunately, when I have been trying to use the Dove preset lately, my PC fan sounds like it's about to take off and I really don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna have to try and either find a different preset, make my own, or find another way that I can kind of just make the game look how I want it to. I really like the shadows when I'm like taking my screenshots and things. I think it just gives it a little bit more of a different look, and I am no good at editing pictures. Like, I don't know how to do it, so I rely 100% on the Reshade to do all the work. So hopefully I will be able to figure it out, but anyway, you will be able to see the interior is what I was originally going to say, in either the screenshots or the tour at the end, because I just didn't have the time for this in this video, you know, to add the interior too. But all I've really done is just decorate them in a nice kind of woodlandy, cottagey kind of style. I've tried to match them a little bit to each of the Sims that I'd kind of assigned them to, but I still think they're really cute. So I've used quite a lot of cottage living landscaping. It's definitely my favorite in terms of the games that in terms of the packs that we have, the landscaping that came with those packs. I've also used a lot of romantic garden landscaping because, again, it's just, I don't know, we don't really have very many like different flowers unless you have either of those two packs, and unfortunately with cottage living all of the landscaping came in the debug menu, which is kind of sad because, you know, some of these flowers are really pretty and it would have been nice to have other things, you know, in the normal menu. And I guess they're probably like, whoever decided on that one probably thought, well, everyone uses, you know, live edit and debug cheese anyway, so we'll just leave them in there. But, you know, there are some people that don't like using cheats, so it would be nice to just have them in the normal menu. Please. But anyway, I've also used these little blue flowers that you can see. I think they might be base game. They're very similar to the ones that we got with Get to Work, but the Get to Work ones kind of floating a little bit, and I thought it kind of just looked, it made it kind of look a little bit more natural and not so boxy. I mean, at this point none of these lots are ever going to be big enough for me, so I've tried to blend it in as much as I can with, well, you know, whilst using up all the space I can, but it just, you know. Anyway, this section up here, I wanted to create like a little fairy ring, and I just really liked, you know, that kind of look. So the last thing that I am kind of doing is just adding these little bits of, I think it's base game ivy, it might even be cottage living ivy, I have no idea. But I wanted, like I said earlier, I wanted it to kind of just blend in a little bit better. I also have never used these, is it classed as, no, that's not the word, is it? Topiary? I don't know, those things. I've never used them before, and I thought that they, you know, deserved kind of to be used, so I thought they looked really good. Yeah, the last thing that I'm doing is adding all of these flowers from Romantic Garden in different colours, because it's not really a flower fairy garden without flowers. So yeah, anyway, I will let you enjoy the rest of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. I worked really hard on this and it's taken me like 2 weeks, which is the longest I've ever done a video, so, or the longest I've ever worked on a video anyway, and I'm rambling now. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.
There's no place I'd rather be than here with you. That's all I need. There's no one I'd rather see close to me. That's all I need.